the debate, and we'll have an opportunity at the end to thank both of our candidates who are with us tonight. We will begin the debate with opening remarks by Senator Strange, followed by opening remarks by Judge Moore, and proceed from there. Senator Strange?
Well, thank you very much. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to discuss the issues that are so important to our country at this historic time in our nation's history. First of all, I would ordinarily recognize my wife, Melissa. She would be here with us tonight. But our second grandson, young James Strange, was born a day before yesterday. And she is in Washington with our son and daughter-in-law. And I had the great pleasure of being able to sit with them in the hospital and hold that young man. And it sort of put everything into perspective. Why we're involved in public service, why we care about this country so much, why we care about the next generation. And I promise you she would be here. We've been married for 36 years. We met in April, we were engaged in August and married in November 36 years ago. Our first date was at a NASCAR race, and I knew that if she would stick with me after going to the Talladega 500, we would have a long and happy marriage, and we have. This is an historic election coming up in this state's history and our nation's history, as I said. A lot of big issues at stake. And the first issue is who's most qualified to ensure the president's agenda is accomplished in Washington, D.C. I don't think there's going to be any difference at the end of this debate over who the person is most qualified to help the president make America great again. So the first question is, who does the president support? The president supports me. If you have not followed the president on Twitter, I urge you to do so. He just tweeted a great tweet out about his enthusiastic support for me and my campaign. We're on the verge of an historic weekend in Alabama. The President of the United States will take time out of his schedule with all the things going on in the world today to come to Huntsville tomorrow afternoon and campaign for me. Why would he do that? Because we've developed a close personal friendship. We both come from the same background, the same mission, the same motivation to make this country great again. We're both people of accomplishment. We're both people who have taken on tough issues. And we've sort of bonded. I've not been in Washington as long as the president has. He's learned the ways of Washington the hard way. Lots of criticism, a lot of people standing in the way, as have I. But I can tell you, no one's more determined to make a difference than the president. Where does the vice president stand? Who does the vice president think would be the best person to support the president's agenda in Washington? Vice President Mike Pence supports me. He's endorsed me. I was with him on Tuesday in Washington, and he came up to me and he said, Luther, I am so anxious to go into the fight with you shoulder to shoulder. How can I do that? And I said, anything you feel is appropriate, Mr. Vice President. He said, I'll be in Alabama this weekend, and he'll be in Huntsville and Birmingham on Monday before the election. The President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States could choose anyone in this race. They could choose my opponent. They could choose anyone in the primary on August 15th. They could stay out of the race. But they have gotten into the race because they know what is at stake. The future of this country is at stake. Who's going to help the president get his agenda passed? Who knows something about immigration? Who knows something about building a wall? Who knows something about enforcing the rule of law? Who knows something about infrastructure? Who knows something about jobs and the economy and actually has a concrete record of getting things done in those areas? I do. And I'm going to talk a lot about that and talk a lot about the issues, because the issues are what are important here. We're past the time in our country's history where we can make speeches and deliver empty promises. We have got to get results done. That's what the president's all about. That's why he's endorsed me in this race. That's why we've become friends. Now, we're mad. I'll speak for myself. I won't speak for the president, but I did talk to him for about a half an hour last night. He called me and said, how are things going? There's a lot of anger in the country, and we share it. The president and I do. He's angry, and I'm angry with the lack of progress in Washington. He spent a year and a half fighting Hillary Clinton, and I think through divine intervention, he was elected our president. And I'm so grateful for that. I spent 6 years fighting the Obama administration as the last line of defense in defense of the Constitution, and I got results. We actually stopped illegal immigration. We protected our religious liberties, our precious right to life. We won those cases. So you can imagine the anger and frustration we both share, and I think that's why we bonded. And I think that's why he said, Luther, we're going to get something done in Washington. I need you at my side. I need you to be a floor leader for me. You've got common sense. You've got an accomplished conservative record. You've been in the fight, and you've got the scars to show for it. That's why I'm with you, and I look forward to being in Alabama this weekend. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'd like to start by introducing my wife, Kayla. Kayla, stand up. We've been married over 33 years, have 4 children and 5 grandchildren. In just about 4 days, the future course of our nation and of our politics in America may well be determined. Even the form of this debate may become a new norm for political discourse across our country. Every pundit, editorialist, special interest group, lobbyist in Washington, D.C. is watching to see what happens in the state of Alabama with regard to this race. Will an elitist Washington establishment with unlimited millions of dollars, and MSNBC said 30 million, and special money be able to control the people of Alabama? Will false, malicious, and scurrilous radio, TV, internet, advertising take the place of honest and open debate in our political arena? I think not. I think the people of Alabama are ready, and I think they're well informed. I trust them. Not only have I been wronged personally, but the honor and integrity of my family and my wife has been criticized. Truly, these are times that try men's souls. The election of Donald Trump in November of 2016 gave many Americans a new hope, a new inspiration for the future of this country. Those unhappy with his election resorted to demonstrations, riots, and violent protest. Meanwhile, the Washington establishment, satisfied with their position, power, and prestige, decided to take the easy course and sit back and do nothing. Illegal aliens still cross our borders. Obamacare has not been fully repealed, although the steps have been made in the right direction, and I support the bill that has passed Congress. We've got to do more. Politics goes on as usual, and our president is frustrated. I want to help get things started, get moving. As a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point and a Vietnam veteran, I want to work our military strong again. I want to get freed from political correctness and social experimentation like transgender troops in our bathroom and inclusiveness. I want to support the VA. I want to support troops that have fought overseas and in the military. I want to revitalize our economy. You know, the greatest difficulty with our economy is the federal government. We need to return to free market enterprise. Regulations need to be cut. Taxes need to be cut. And bureaucratic policies need to be erased. Foreign trade must again be fair as well as free. And made in America must mean something again. I want to rein in federal judges who think themselves above the Constitution they're sworn to uphold. Judicial supremacy must be stopped. And finally, I want to see virtue and morality returned to our country. And God is the only source of our law, liberty, and government. You know, our first president said that virtue or morality was a necessary spring of popular government. He said, "Who that is a sincere friend to it can look with indifference on attempts to shake the foundation of the fabric?" Our foundation has been shaken. Crime, corruption, immorality, abortion, sodomy, sexual perversion sweep our land. When we become one nation under God again, when liberty and justice for all reigns across our land, we will be truly good again. And then we will be straight. Thank you.
All right. I would ask again, as much as we're impassioned in the opportunity to have our candidates here tonight, that we try to refrain, and we will save that and applaud at the very end. Senator Strange?
Thank you. Well, I agree with many of the principles laid out by my opponent. The difference is I've actually accomplished many of those things in the arena. That's why the president's endorsing me in this race. A lot of the things that we would agree on, but the president had a choice, and he picked me as the person who can actually get that done in a very tough environment. So let's talk about the issues. What are the issues we really care about, and what have we done to advance those issues? Immigration would be the first on my list to talk about because it was the one that caught fire here in Alabama. I got into politics because of Jeff Sessions. I started out being mentored by Jeff, volunteering for Jeff. He served as Attorney General before I did. He set the gold standard in the Office of Attorney General. I tried to live up to that. I consulted with Jeff as I'm considered running for the Senate to take his place because he set the standard for a United States Senator for the last 20 years. Jeff and Mary have been dear friends for all those years, and they have welcomed us to Washington. But his signature issue, and the issue that really ignited the president's great success in this country, was immigration. Immigration is a critical issue. Who's the president think is the best person to help him build the wall? And agrees that it was in me. Who's the best person to ensure that we enforce the laws? He's chosen me. But it's not just because of my sterling personality. It's because I have a record. Because I've worked with Jeff Sessions for years to ensure that's done. And I'm not sure that my opponent's aware of this, but since Jeff Sessions came into office as our Attorney General and said we're going to do something that I've been promoting and doing as Attorney General for years, that is, enforce the law. Enforce the law. That's a novel concept, isn't it? We're actually going to enforce the laws of this country. Jeff is doing that, and I've supported him 100% in that effort. And illegal border crossings are down almost 70% in this country, because we finally have an Attorney General who's willing to enforce the law. The president knows my record in this area. He knows that I defended Alabama's law going after illegal immigration. And we were as successful as we could be given the liberal judges that we were handed in court. He knows that as Attorney General of this state, when President Barack Obama came in with an edict, remember he had a phone and a pen? He said, I'm just going to decide I'm not going to enforce the immigration laws of this country. I went to court along with Scott Pruitt and other members of the president's administration who were AGs at the time, and we sued. And you know what? We won. We got a concrete result stopping illegal amnesty by a president who was willing to disregard the Constitution of the United States. Wasn't any Washington talk. There wasn't any special interest running around saying, oh, we'll help you do that. We did it because it was the right thing to do, because we took an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States and the rule of law. And we won. The president knows that. I could give a speech about this all day. He wants somebody who's done it, who knows how to win, knows how to get this done. And that's why he's endorsed me in this race. That's why he's coming to Alabama tomorrow night, enthusiastically. We have thousands of people coming from all over this state to hear him talk about a can-do person here in the Senate race. I know people want to talk about other agendas. They want to talk about Mitch McConnell. They want to talk about everything under the sun except the issues. And these are the issues the president ran on, that Jeff Sessions spent 20 years of his life devoted to, that helped the president be elected to make America great again. That's why having a personal relationship with the president and the vice president is so critically important if we want to get something done. I'm not backing down on immigration. I'm not giving up on the wall. I'm not second-guessing the president. I'm all in with the president. I've supported him 100% of the time since he's been in Washington. Am I frustrated that some of our so-called conservative Republicans are not? Absolutely. I was on the floor of the Senate at 3 o'clock in the morning when John McCain walked up and said, thumbs down. Thumbs down. Talk about frustration. After spending 6 years doing exactly what I just told you I did, suing to protect the Constitution and actually winning. So I understand immigration. My opponent was asked about DACA, which is Jeff Sessions' #1 signature issue, the day he's going to remove a terrible Obama rule, and he was clueless about what it was. The president notices that. He knows that. That's why he's endorsed me. Thank you.
Judge?
Well, I'm certainly glad I'm not running against the President of the United States. Nor am I running against the Vice President of the United States. And I can't tell you what the president thinks. I can't tell you every move he makes, when he goes to the bathroom, when he doesn't, like my opponent. But let's talk about the wall. Obviously, as a Vietnam veteran, I defend our country. I defended it in combat. I'm the only combat veteran in this race. That includes securing our borders. Illegal aliens constitute a continuing threat to our country. That requires building a wall. My opponent's ad that takes wall, wall, wall out simply leaves out the rest of the conversation about the wall. I've always mentioned that we can stop illegal aliens crossing our borders immediately with the United States military. That's because I was in the United States military, and I know we can build the wall when funds become available and it's voted on by Congress. We can't sit on our haunches and wait till the wall's built to do something about immigration. PolitiFact.com has revealed that that ad that they made is totally false. But is Luther Strange really interested in our security? On September 19th, that was last Tuesday, WHNT Channel 19 confirmed that State Auditor Jim Ziegler's finding that Luther Strange currently benefits financially from a program that sells visas to foreign nationals called EB-5. Luther Strange's Senate financial disclosure form states that Mr. Strange owns a 16% share of Sunbelt LLC, a company that offers permanent residency status in exchange for big investments. That program is called EB-5. According to Chuck Grassley of Iowa, that program is wrought with, and I quote, fraud, mismanagement, and it has security problems. So why wait on Congress? Obviously, Congress did not do their duty. So we've got to look at what we need to be done. Luther Strange agrees that there are serious concerns over EB-5 visa program, which is not being used as originally intended. He says it's time for Congress to get to work on these issues, but Mr. Strange owns part of the company and has received revenues therefrom from the sale of such visas to wealthy Chinese investors. How can we trust Luther Strange to address security concerns under a program administered by a company he owns 16% of? We don't need to talk about DACA. Obviously, Congress did not do their duty on DACA, which was a mere memo from the Department of Homeland Security under Barack Obama, which violated the laws. Deferment. Deferred action on childhood arrivals. Very simple. Dreamer development, relief, education, alien minors. There's no such thing as a dreamer. You know why? It was never passed by Congress. And when it didn't pass by Congress, Obama himself, through his Homeland Security, decided to implement a program and violate the law. That's why we're here today. That's why we're having a problem today. I submit further that Luther Strange has the same obligation to investigate and rectify his own company, not wait on Congress. If we wait on Congress to do everything, we'll lose. It's our business to take care of our business. DACA is wrong. Dreamer is wrong. We need to look at the RAISE Act, the Reformed American Immigration, RAISE Act, Reformed American Integration for a Strong Economy. We need to look at vetting these people coming into our country and pick people that are going to do something for our economy. That's what Jeff Sessions says. I think we can take care of DACA very easily by turning them to the RAISE Act, pass the RAISE Act in Congress, and then let the people make applications there too. Then we can let the most qualified. A lot of people in DACA simply aren't qualified. They haven't been asked the questions about their entry and where they stand on things. It's been family-oriented. I support firmly the RAISE Act, and I think it should be acted on by Congress, and the sooner the better. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, for someone who is complaining about a lot of personal attacks, you seem to be prepared to deliver a bunch of them tonight. I'm going to stick with the jobs and economy now, because the people of this state that I talk to as I travel around care about the issues the president campaigned on. First issue he campaigned on was immigration. The second one was making our economy great again. We can't endure another 4 years of the pitiful Obama economy. People need jobs. People need employment. People need to be able to provide for their families so they can give money to their churches and to their charities. We're the most generous state in the union in terms of what we give to charities. But we can't do it when we have people working 2 jobs, when we have an oppressive economy. So another reason the president's supporting me, and I know you may get tired of hearing this, and you may resent that the president is my friend and is supporting me in this race, but I think it's a good thing that the President of the United States has a personal relationship with the junior senator from Alabama and loves Alabama as much as he does. That's why he's coming here on Friday night. But he knows my record on the economy. I'm not just talking about it's good to provide jobs. I don't know of any jobs my opponent's ever created, perhaps in his personal foundation, but I've actually worked to create jobs in this state. We're here in Montgomery, Alabama. About 12 years ago in Hope Hull, not far away from here, there was just an empty pasture. And a car manufacturer wanted to come to the southeast. And that company, Hyundai, hired me to represent them, to see if they could make a home in Alabama. I traveled to Korea. I learned about the pros and cons of their business and what they could add to this economy. I represented them through the process of deciding to come to Alabama. And they did. And I toured that plant not long ago, and I guess there were maybe 2,500 people working there, make over 2,000 cars a day. And the suppliers that were created from that one plant ripple through thousands and thousands of jobs throughout this state to areas like south of here to Lowndes County, to Macon County, people that need jobs that are at home desperate for work. And now they're working and they're happy. The president knows that. He knows I've actually been in the arena and have created jobs. There's a fantastic facility many of you may not be aware of, but it's world class in Huntsville, Alabama, called the Hudson Alpha Institute. It was another field in the research park outside of Huntsville, and some very generous people from Alabama decided they wanted to make it a world-class medical facility and bring in the greatest scientists in the world. They hired me to represent them, to see if they could make that dream become real. And I did. Now there is a magnificent facility. It has the top scientists in the world taken from Stanford University in California, and they're curing diseases right now as we speak. It employs hundreds of people, and they're brilliant scientists. That's creating jobs. That's putting people to work. That's making Alabama proud. Now we are the star of the world in terms of auto manufacturing, and in the knowledge economy. That is a huge benefit for us because we want our people to prosper and thrive, and they will. You know, the other thing I'll say is briefly about Alabama's great contribution to the military, because it ties together with the privilege I've had in taking Jeff Sessions' place on the Armed Services Committee. And I appreciate and thank my opponent for his service to this country. But we have the greatest veterans and the greatest people in the military, retirees included, of any state in the country. Generals who come here, sergeants and privates who come and stay, they want to come back and retire. We also build some of the most magnificent weapons that are keeping our nation safe as we speak right now, from the Missile Defense Command in Huntsville, Redstone Arsenal, to the great Air Force College right here, to the construction of littoral combat ships in Mobile. And when the president said in his last budget, he said, I need another ship for the Navy. We're trying to get to a Navy that can be competitive and keep us safe in the world. We worked together and we got that ship just this past week in the National Defense Authorization Act. That'll employ thousands of people in Mobile for the next decade, and it will also keep our nation safe. The strongest military in the world, we couldn't be prouder of it. Those are jobs, those are contributing to our national security, and it's all part of our economy. That's why Vice President Pence is coming to Alabama. That's why the president is so enthusiastic about what we're doing, because it all comes back to what is this election really all about? Are we going to support the president? Are we going to make America great again? Are we going to put people in there that he wants, who he knows will do the hard work of actually getting things done? Thank you.
Well, again, I'm sorry I don't know the president personally. I haven't been to Washington. I haven't been allowed to get close to the president and talk to him. So I don't know what he's thinking and what he's doing. And I know that Mr. Strange has been a lobbyist. It's what he told you. He went and got Hyundai here, and that's what a lobbyist does. It represents people, special interests sometimes, to get things done. He's accused me in those ads of saying I'm a career politician. I've been a judge for 14 and a half years. I was a prosecutor before that. That's an unelected position. But I served the state of Alabama prosecuting. Well, as a judge, I have a hard job. It's very difficult. Now it's been over about 20 years ago. But eventually I did run for circuit judge, and I was elected, the first Republican elected in Etowah County ever. It was 61%. And I served as a judge for 8 years. I did all the job as a judge. Then I ran for Chief Justice. I've served 2 terms, different times, rather, 2 separate times. My entire political career has been serving the state of Alabama. My opponent, on the other hand, has been a professional lobbyist for over 23 years. And when I say professional lobbyist, from 1980 to 2008, he earned $6.674 million during the 9-year period from his lobbying disclosure form, from 1999 to 2008. Now, on the ads, I supposedly got $1 million, which I didn't get. Never did see it. They didn't have enough money to pay me. They added what they didn't pay me. I say he's been a professional lobbyist because for over 23 years, he maintained a condo worth over $500,000 at 801 Pennsylvania Avenue on Washington, D.C., about 6 or 7 blocks from the capital of our country. 23 years as a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. What do lobbyists do? They represent special interests. And Luther Strange, on behalf of Russell Corporation, urged Congress to pass CAFTA, Central American Free Trade Association. It cost the United States over 4,240 jobs. Gone to Mexico and Honduras. Textile and sewing plants were closed in Lafayette, Alexander City, and Sylacauga. You know, President Trump had it right when he ran. The first thing he did say he was going to get rid of lobbyists. But I tell you, you don't get rid of lobbyists in the swamp by sending them to the United States Senate. This is pure hypocrisy in this race. Recently, it came up a debate. This debate was supposed to be held earlier at Samford University by API. And we discovered that Caleb Crosby, who was the president of API, just happened to be, coincidentally, out of millions of people, the treasurer of the Senate Leadership Fund that were making all the bad ads about me. He just happened to want to set up a debate. And we found out. Then we found out that the board didn't know about it, many of them. And the people at Samford didn't know about it. So we politely, behind the scenes, told them we weren't coming, trying to let them get out by saving face, because obviously something was rigged. And they came back. And here's what their campaign spokesman said. The title, Roy Moore Bails on Forum with Strange, doesn't give reason. First, they didn't ask for one before they printed the article. And then, at the end, Strange's campaign released a document criticizing Moore for canceling. Another week, another canceled debate from Roy Moore, said Strange for Senate spokesman Cameron Foster. What is Roy Moore afraid of? What is Roy Moore hiding? Voters should ask themselves, if Roy Moore refuses to answer questions from voters, will he listen to their concerns in elected office? When I talk about hypocrisy, I'm talking about a man that missed 8 of 12 forums, debates, if you will. Some of the candidates are sitting here. I see Randy Brinson there. Others are out there. Missed 8 out of 12. And when he did come, no questions were asked him. That's why we canceled the debate. And I'll tell you, that's why we set this debate up, so that you, ladies and gentlemen in the public, can understand who's running and their qualifications for this office. Thank you.
I think this is great. This is why this was the only forum that my opponent would agree to, a Lincoln Douglas style debate. And I was very happy to do that because Lincoln and Douglas talked about the issues. We can pretty much tell he's just going to attack the whole night. And I heard precious little about any issues, actually what he's accomplished or what he would do. And so you could just have a press conference to do that. The beauty of the Lincoln-Douglas debate is to inform the public about the difference between the candidates and what they would actually do. For somebody who complains about personal attacks, once again, that's all I've heard so far tonight. What I'm here to talk about are the issues. And one issue that distinguishes me from my opponent, which is probably the most critical one if you care about the Constitution and traditional values, is my record in that area. That's why the president endorsed me. He knows I have a record of defending the Constitution and our traditional values. He knows I was the last line of defense, literally the last line of defense, in protecting the Constitution and the rule of law and all of our precious freedoms when President Obama was in office. For 6 years when Congress did nothing and we were run over by President Obama and Harry Reid and those people, I wasn't sitting around giving speeches. I was in the fight, in the courtroom, and winning cases. A couple of things that affected our small businessmen and our farmers and our citizens that are just trying to make it in Alabama were edicts from the Environmental Protection Agency. We were literally being ruled when this is a nation where we should simply be governed by partners in government. We were being ruled by the Obama administration. They proposed two things, and I'll just name two, but we were involved in many, many. We were in the fight. One's called the Waters of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency decided that maybe a puddle that overflows in your backyard one afternoon after a rain becomes a navigable water. All that was a power grab to take your property and your liberty and your rights by the Obama administration out of control, illegal. We sued them and we won. We stopped that case. We stopped that egregious grab from the government. Next one was the Clean Power Plan, a rule cooked up by the Obama administration to put coal out of business. I've been to the coal mines. I've met with these coal miners before I went into court. They're in tears because somebody's trying to put them out of business for no fault of their own, for some political correct agenda in Washington. And it would have raised your utility rates. It would hurt the poor the most. They would have been the ones that suffered the most because their rates would have gone up. And if you know anything about economic development and business, the rates that our factories would have to pay would have gone up and people would have been out of work. So what did we do? Scott Pruitt and some other very conservative attorneys general who aren't afraid of a fight, we went to court and we stopped it. Some of the lawyers in my office, as Attorney General, are here tonight. We won. We were the only ones that could stop Obama, the only ones that were willing to do it or could do it, and we did it. But let's talk about things that I care even more about, like our precious religious liberty. That's the greatest right we have, to pray, to live our faith. My faith is more important to me than anything. I came to accept Christ as my Lord and Savior as a young man through young life, and many of you have come through different routes, and it's guided my life, my family life, and my professional life ever since. Well, our religious liberty was threatened by the Obama administration as part of the Obamacare law. I was in the courtroom when that law was, I think, unjustly held constitutional. But one of the things that came out of it was a threat to our religious liberty. Not very far up the road is the Eternal Word Television Network, a group that believes that they have the right to choose what they will do with their personal lives, even if they work for a company or a religious broadcasting institute system. The president was going to make them pay for something they had a moral and religious objection to: contraceptives, abortifacients. They said, we're not going to do that. We're going to have to either fire everybody, quit providing insurance for them. We're not going to violate our religious principles. We went to court on their behalf and stopped that. You remember the Hobby Lobby case? We were right in the middle of that, working to make sure our religious liberties were protected because no one else was willing to do it or able to do it. Now we have a president that will. Now we have a president that's confirming and proposing judges that believe in the Constitution and the rule of law. And I was proud to be sitting in the chair in the Senate when Neil Gorsuch's name was brought up, and we blew up the filibuster rules for judges, and we confirmed him. And if we really care about getting God back into our communities and get the government out of the way, they're in our communities, they're in our hearts. We know Alabama, we know our citizens. But if we got to get the government out of the way and prevent this oppression, we've got to support our president and get more conservative judges confirmed for our courts. And I'm so glad that he believes I'm the man to do that. Thank you.
My opponent said his major accomplishments being removed from office twice. He didn't mention I was removed from office once and suspended. And he didn't mention the reason was standing up for religious liberty. What did he do? Hold your applause. What did he do? Acknowledge that the United States Supreme Court decision is the law of the land. The court's decision is binding. The statement said Attorney General Luther Strange planned to file a document in the court that will state all state agencies will comply last month's U.S. Supreme Court's decision to legalize same-sex marriage in the nation. I went fast because as soon as Obergefell came down, he caved. He did not stand. The Alabama Supreme Court actually upheld their injunctions. Far later, we're the only state in the union that has upheld injunctions both before and after Obergefell, and our Attorney General and Governor caved. He wanted to talk about his record. He wants to talk about, first, character is an issue in every case. Every election, character is an issue. Let's talk about his cleaning up corruption in the swamp. About the only thing we have in common is we were both prosecutors. I was a prosecutor at the state level. He was Attorney General prosecuting criminal law. And the one principle that we both adhere to is that we both know that it's highly improper to accept gifts or favors from someone you're investigating. If you're charged with murder, you don't go out to supper with the defendant. I want to read something here. He sent a letter to the legislative body saying, at this time I believe it would be prudent and beneficial to delay the work of the House Judiciary Committee. I respectfully request that the committee cease active interviews and investigations until I am able to report to you the necessary related work of the office has been completed. Well, that was on November 3rd. On November 3rd, the House responded with a news release saying the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee said he's suspending the hearings of Governor Robert Bentley at the request of Attorney General Luther Strange, who is conducting a separate investigation of the governor. Well, that was fine for that time, but then Luther Strange came out on December 22nd after he was meeting with Governor Bentley and said, he has never said the governor is under investigation. He knew the impropriety then. He was appointed February 9th. Last week, 4 days ago, the newspaper reported Strange has said he and Bentley did not discuss the investigation. He opened the investigation that eventually led to Bentley resigning and taking a plea deal. What's the truth? Did you, sir, have Robert Bentley, the former governor who appointed you to the Senate, under investigation while you were applying for that appointment? And if so, did you not recuse from the investigation and notify the House Judiciary Committee as you were required to do? I'll tell you, he never notified the House Judiciary Committee. He changed his story 2 times. I don't know what he's going to answer this. Did you have an investigation or not? We've got to get to the truth in this matter. The 60-vote rule, I opposed the 60-vote rule from the very beginning. Only recently did he reverse course, take his name and saying that he had signed a letter, which he had, to the House and Senate saying he supported the 60-vote rule. Now, if anybody knows Governor or President Trump's agenda, he opposed the 60-vote rule. So why did Luther Strange just weeks ago suddenly decide that he would reverse course? I'll tell you why. Because he'll do anything to get his job. And that's called lack of character, sir. Thank you.
I didn't hear anything about the issues or any solutions or anything he's going to do to help the president. More personal attacks. This has been, and frankly, I think you can stay here for 15 segments in the Lincoln Douglas debate, and you won't hear anything about anything he's accomplished or anything he's going to do to help the president. But I'm anxiously waiting to hear that. It might come up. You never know. Let's talk about accomplishments again. I'll give you a case study on doing something that have benefited our state in a conservative way, and it's what is so appealing to the president. He's a problem solver. He's a guy who wants to get things done. He wants to save the taxpayers' money. He's tired of the rhetoric. Look, I can endure however many attacks he wants to launch tonight. Think how much the president gets attacked every day. Good Lord. We actually have the kind of relationship where we can laugh about that. Because if there's anybody that's been maligned and brutalized, it's our president. But he's doing it for the right reasons. It's what you have to endure to be in public life these days. But let me tell you about a case that I'm incredibly proud of. It's a case involving the biggest environmental disaster in our state's history. The Deepwater Horizon blew up, killed 11 people. I worked in the offshore industry. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon. I grew up in a very modest family, and I worked my way all the way through school. I was lucky I grew up to be 6 feet 9 inches tall, so I could get a basketball scholarship to pay for that. And I worked overseas in the North Sea between Scotland and Norway on an oil field supply boat, sort of like the deadliest catch, except you're dealing with dangerous drill pipe and that sort of thing. So I know the oil and gas industry up close. I've seen it. I've seen how dangerous it is. That rig blew up and put millions and millions of barrels of oil in the Gulf of Mexico. When I came into office, my predecessor, a Republican, by the way, that I had to beat, I have no problem going against someone in my own party if it's necessary. Believe me, that's been my record. I came into office. My predecessor had hired an outside law firm at a very large, handsome contingency fee. The first day in office, I said, thank you very much, appreciate your help. We're going to handle that case ourselves. We're going to represent the people of the state of Alabama. We're their lawyers, and we're as good as anybody else. And we're going to save that money. And that's what we did. And I went to New Orleans. Our guys in my office, I'm so proud of them, they took the Greyhound bus down there because it had Wi-Fi, and they could work on the way. You had every major corporation in the world, practically, BP on down. Best, most money, biggest, toughest lawyers. We worked tirelessly to ensure justice for the Gulf of Mexico, and we got it in record time. The judge appointed me. He could have picked any of the attorneys general in the Gulf Coast, any one of them. He picked me to be the coordinating counsel for the Gulf Coast states. Alabama had the seat at the table. The other states weren't there. It was Alabama. We recovered over $2.5 billion for our state. $1 billion went to the general fund. Our general fund is in desperate shape. $1 billion went to the general fund. Under the contract that my predecessor had signed, that $140 million, 14% of that, would have gone to the law firm. Law firm's located right down the street. Its named partner is my opponent's biggest supporter. $140 million went to the general fund. That shored up Medicaid. That's the poorest among us. And because the team that my opponent maligned, my public corruption unit, was so good, the legislature, our Republicans in the legislature, did something that's never been done in Alabama history. They zeroed out the budget of the Alabama Attorney General. I talked to Jeff Sessions about it. I said, Jeff, you know, we've been making a lot of people mad at the State House by following the truth wherever it leads, going after the Speaker of the House, a Republican, a friend of mine at one time. That wasn't easy. That wasn't the politically expedient thing to do. I've still got alligators out on the prowl, still mad about that, and they'll never get over it. That's why President Trump looks at me and says, who's done this? Who's actually done this? Who's gone to the lengths of having his own budget zeroed out? They were going to eliminate the Office of Attorney General because we took on the rich and powerful people on Goat Hill. And I'm proud of that. I couldn't be prouder of our team. I couldn't be prouder of our team. I couldn't have accepted the appointment if I didn't know that team was going to follow the truth wherever it was, because that's what they did to dozens of convictions of elected officials. So I'm proud of that record. That's a common sense, conservative record that brought money back to the people using the rule of law. Thank you.
Notice he never said anything whether he was investigating the governor or not, and I predict he will not because he can't answer that question. He just wants to say, I attack him. Another personal attack. I haven't attacked him one time in an ad on television, radio, anywhere, and he knows it. His attacks have come every day, every hour, every minute throughout, and are carrying on. If you don't believe me, turn on the television. See who's using money out of Washington, D.C. to make attacks. He came from a modest family in Mountain Brook. I came from Gallant. Y'all come visit my home where I lived without a bathroom when I was in high school. You know, he wants to talk about, let's talk about an issue, national indebtedness. You know, everyone agrees, and this is a very hard subject to talk about because when you talk about $1 trillion, anybody know what $1 trillion? It's if you have $1 million, and for every million you have another million. So for every dollar you have in $1 million, you have another million. It's 1 million times 1 million. Figures are confusing, but imagine a world where you could avoid paying your credit card each month simply by raising your credit limit. Now, my wife would be happy about that. But one day you find yourself that you can't, even if you spent 1/5 of all your expenditures, you couldn't even pay the interest. That's where we're going in 2047. Our first president warned us to cherish public credit and not ungenerously throw the burden upon our posterity, our children and grandchildren. That's what we're doing. In 1962, the total national debt was 1/3 of $1 trillion. Today, it's over 20 trillion. The consequences, we'll wind up like Argentina, Greece. My opponent, less than just right over 6 months after being in the Senate, voted on September 7th, which is the day after I published something on national debt and the dangers of it. He voted to increase the national debt. Oh, it's for good cause, Honduras relief, hurricane relief, and Irma and Harvey. But wait a minute, there was no need to do that. Representative Rand Paul made an America First Amendment which said we'll take some of the $57.5 billion that we've laid aside for foreign aid. Just take $15.25 billion and we can pay for it and not raise the debt. He voted against it. Voted against the America First Amendment. Absolute no authority under the Constitution to give away our money like they're giving it away. We need to stop unconstitutional spending. One unconstitutional bill is the Taylor Force bill, up before Congress now. This very much affects me. It's a West Point graduate, served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he came back and was taking an MBA. And he went over to Israel. And he got stabbed to death by Israeli terrorists. And so President Trump rightfully wants to reverse this put forth a Taylor Force bill, which rescind support or suspend support to Palestinian authorities, which stop payments to terrorists and their families. Congress calls it a pay-to-slay bill. It's when they get convicted of the murder, our government pays their family to keep them up in Palestine. I want to do away with it. I want to stop it immediately. There's nothing in the Constitution that authorizes that. I don't care who authorizes it. You don't give foreign money away like that. And to terrorists, this is completely unacceptable. They've paid over $144 million since this program began. We need to get away from Obama's program of paying our enemies to kill us in Israel. And that's what we need to do. They pay up to $3,500 to each family of a terrorist, depending on how long they're incarcerated. Taylor Force bill should be passed by Congress, and we should get out of funneling our money in welfare to foreign countries. Thank you.
Do we have how many more segments? Is this our close?
No, this is our final unit, and after this, we will then move to closing remarks. So we have one unit remaining and then the closing.
Great. Well, on the last issue, I'd like to focus on national security. That is a pressing issue. I am honored to take Jeff Sessions' place on the Armed Services Committee. The world may never have been as dangerous as it is today. It's incredibly dangerous. The President and I agree on many of the things that we've talked about tonight related to national security, particularly Jeff Sessions' leadership in that area. We've talked about it a good bit. And I talked a little bit about Alabama's role in that. I'm very proud. I mentioned one thing that is happening here in Montgomery that I'm supporting very much is the F-35 airplane. We hope that to be located here. I've met recently with the Navy Chief of Operations about the LCS ship. Things that we're doing here in this state are fantastic. Having a relationship with the Commander-in-Chief, not just the President, he's the Commander-in-Chief of our armed services. To have his support and endorsement, I hope says something to the people of our state about how he feels who would be the best ally representative in the Senate to help him get his agenda passed. He could have picked my opponent. He could have picked anyone else, or he could have stayed out of this race. But the President said, Luther Strange is on the ground securing Navy ships. He understands our missile defense issues. And I'll tell you, I've been honored to be in a couple of top secret briefings. And I'll just tell you, what I can tell you is that the North Korea situation is critically important right now. It may be the hottest place in the world. The President, I'm so proud of his leadership there. He's changed the dynamics of the previous administration. Have had the chance to visit with Secretary of Defense Mattis, one of the most brilliant military leaders you'll ever see. Our Secretary of State Tillerson is an incredibly impressive person. I'm praying that his diplomatic efforts work in this dispute. But I've told the President, and I think the Senate would agree with this, we're not taking any options off the table. This is a peace-threatening issue we're dealing with in North Korea. So we've got to support our men and women in harm's way, and I look forward to doing that. I appreciate the President's confidence in coming down from Washington to be with me. The Vice President will be here on Monday. He's going to take a look at some of our defense capabilities. I'm very proud of those. Huntsville is a leader, as is many places in our state. So let's not forget about the need to support our President in the national defense area. Again, I'm honored that he looks to me on issues, especially issues that affect Alabama. Our retired veterans, and I commend my opponent for pointing that out. They've not been treated like they should, and the President made that a big deal. So to have his support and encouragement there is really important and very significant, because we need an advocate for the military in Washington, someone the President trusts, the President knows, the President will call on to say, what do you need? What can we do to help you? And that's what I'm going to do as your senator. Thank you. I think that.
You know, I'm very happy that, excuse me, get set up again, ready? I'm very happy that President Trump is our commander-in-chief. He went to military school as a child, actually near West Point, and that's where I went to West Point. I think he understands a little bit about the military, and I appreciate his order saying no more transgender troops in the military, which I said even before he said it. We agree with that. I agree with him very much on that, and I appreciate his support through the Senate and the House for things like the Littoral Combat Ship out of Mobile. I've been down there, I've visited them, I've talked to them about that. It's a very good program, and we're very proud in Alabama to have a place where they build these things, where they build the SDS system in Huntsville, where they have missile and rocket space technology that only perhaps is found in Houston, Texas. We're very proud of Alabama and the technology we have here, and I will fully support giving things to this state to make our military more secure. In fact, I think we probably have the most devout, loyal military in the National Guard. My son's in the National Guard. He's a reservist. He's working every weekend just about. I'm proud of that. My other son's at the United States Military Academy serving as a yearling, second year. I want a good military. I believe in a strong military, a military that will be feared by our enemies, loved by our people, and respected by our friends and our allies. I don't want one that's just this feel-good thing about inclusiveness and things like this. We've got to go back and look at what we need in this state. If you have to declare war, do you know who does that? United States Congress has to do that. who do you want to declare war? Somebody that's been there and knows that and done that? It's very important. I know what it feels like to go to war. I know, which means to leave your family behind. Then I wasn't married, but I had family. I think that you've got to look at the qualifications of the people running before you, not at President Trump. I mean, you know, I have the Trump Citizens for Trump going to endorse me tonight, a national spokesman that supported President Trump. They know what President Trump stands for. The problem is President Trump's being cut off in his office. He's being redirected by people like McConnell, who do not support his agenda, who will not support his agenda in the future. I think we need to go back and look at these things and look at what's going on. This is the most unbelievable race I have ever been in. To have my opponent say I'm attacking him by standing here and telling the truth about how he got his appointment, about how he made his living, when all of this, he's blistered me in television for 3 months now. Solid, unapologetically. And he's proud of it. He's proud of attacking my wife. But there is a God. And there is a God in heaven that is in this campaign. And we look forward to September 26th. It's coming soon. And the answer will be given. That's all I have. Thank you.
Senator Strange, this will be your concluding remarks.
Great. Well, my opponent, I have to say to him, with all due respect, I don't think that God's just on your side. I don't think that God's just on my side. I think he's on both of our sides. I think he's on the president's side. But one thing I do know, the president is on my side. And the president is on my side, and what you just said reveals a total lack of understanding of the president and of his character and of his determination and of his loyalty and of his friendship. You just said that he was being manipulated by Mitch McConnell. I met Mitch McConnell about 6 or 7 months ago. I've already stood up to him many occasions. And to suggest that the President of the United States, the head of the free world, a man who is changing the world, is being manipulated by Mitch McConnell is insulting to the President. It's absolutely insulting to the President. That's why he's chosen me. He's not being manipulated by anyone. As a matter of fact, many of the people who are supporting you look like the unemployment line at the White House. They are fired. They're not there. There's a reason for that, because the President is his own man. And if anybody in this room or in the state of Alabama doubts that he can't make up his mind without being influenced by someone, then you just misread the president. You just flat misread him. There's a lot of other differences between the two of us. Judgment is one. I won't dwell on a case that where we actually came head-to-head in a case. I enjoy the sport of law enforcement. I have a passion for law enforcement. I love being the Attorney General. There's a case called Higdon. He may not remember it. It was a terrible case where he sided with the defendant in a very serious case. It really reflects on judgment. I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk about that later. But as my time winds down, I want to get back to why this is so important, why this election is so important. He's right, it's a national election. Are we going to have people that respect the president? Or are we just all going to sit here and say, oh, the president's just easily manipulated, and he'll believe whatever anybody tells him? No, the president is a man of principle who knows his mind and makes decisions freely. And he made a decision freely in picking me. And I'm proud that he's here. We're going to have a historic time tomorrow night in Huntsville, Alabama. It is going to be magnificent. I think we have over 20,000 people already ready to be there. And the president will come himself and say this. It's not going to be me saying it. The president will say why he needs me in Washington. That is historic. It's going to be an historic occasion. And the vice president is coming. You know why they're coming? Because they want to get things done. And they've looked at my record, and they've looked at my opponent's record. And they've made a decision. And it's just not a namby-pamby decision. It's not like, well, we'll kind of get around to it or something. They know what's at stake here. This is a big deal that's at stake. A big deal. We've got to have people in Washington who will get things done, who can call the president up and tell him the truth and say, we need your help here. Here's what's going on. Here's what we can do. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. He's all about getting things done. That's why he was elected president of the United States. I'm tired of him being attacked. I'm glad to be his friend. I'm glad to serve with him and work with him. Nobody influences me. If people influence me, we wouldn't have cleaned up Montgomery and drained the swamp. I would have just let a private law firm handle the BP case and make $140 million. I would have just sat at home and not sued Barack Obama dozens of times and won and protected our citizens and, more importantly, protected our Constitution and the rule of law. That never would have happened. That would have been easy. Then I wouldn't have a bunch of enemies out, saying the wildest things. And my opponent's made up a bunch of stuff. Most entertaining to me is that he's not negative. If you haven't been to his Facebook or Twitter page, I think you need to take a look at it. That's just, we have a sign in our house that says no whining. There is no whining in politics. If the president was whining, he wouldn't be the president. You've got to take it to the fight to the other side. That's why the president picked me in this race. That's why he's coming down here to be with me. And it's not just about me. It's not about me or my opponent here. This is about America. This is about whether we're going to have the country that we want, whether we're going to restore the values that we cherish, that people are dying all over the world right now as we speak, serving around the clock to protect us. Are we going to protect and preserve and make this country great again? I'll tell you, it'll be a test. It'll be a test of our state. It'll be a test of our people. Are we going to support our president or not? Are we going to support our president? I believe we will. I believe we'll support our president by voting for me on Tuesday. Get ready for a fun, fantastic, entertaining, patriotic weekend with the president here in Alabama. God bless you, and I would greatly appreciate your vote on September 26th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Judge, these are your concluding remarks in tonight's debate.
I didn't mean to be misunderstood when I said about God is in this. I believe God's in this election. I don't mean he's in it for me or for me to win, for me to lose. I believe whatever happens, whether he wins or I win, will be his will. That's what I mean. I've never prayed to win. I don't believe in that. I believe in God's will. So I don't want anybody to go out here thinking I'm claiming God's going to see me through this. He will see me through this, hopefully. And I will finish it, and we'll be over on September 26th. But I want to talk about, if you took everything he said about the president this and the president that, and about everything about the president and the vice president, there wouldn't be much left to talk about issues. Here's 12 pages, solid, of national leaders. I'm not going to repeat them. I don't believe in that sort of thing. I don't believe in that. This race is not me against the president. It's not me against the vice president. It's me against Luther Strange. And I want to tell you what McConnell has done. He called Bentley and got him the appointment. They wanted the lobbyist up there. McConnell wages war down south. The Senate leader is being pillared in an Alabama special election as the hated symbol of the establishment, and he's responding in force, unleashing the full force of the political machine in an all-out push to stop two far-right conservatives who threatened to make his life miserable in the Senate. A conservative making his life miserable. And Mo Brooks, do you remember when the ads came out from his campaign against Mo Brooks? Do you remember repeating and repeating and repeating? And continued till he got in the runoff. Then he switches and changes it to me. Now, that's very unusual. I've never been in a race like this, where somebody attacks both his opponents mercifully, without mercy. Both his opponents. Why? The Republican establishment is at or near panic mode about the upcoming Alabama Senate race. There's a primary August 15th, and the establishment favorite is trailing. There is little fear among Republicans that Democrats could win the seat, but Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is among the establishment figures alarmed that former Alabama Supreme Court Chief Justice Roy Moore is ahead in polls. Strange was appointed to the seat after Jeff Sessions resigned to become Attorney General, and has the Washington party's leadership backing as he now runs for the seat. Then it says this. This is CNN, by the way. This is not necessarily my best friends in the world. McConnell, who has a narrow 52-48 majority, has made it clear he does not want a conservative rebel in a GOP conference already difficult to manage. Now, after polling showing Moore opening a lead with 6 weeks to go, the establishment is trying to rally financial and other support for Strange. That's where we get $30 million in funds being put in this race. The people of Alabama should be very concerned when $30 million comes from Washington, D.C. to try to make you choose who you want for United States Senate. I'm going to tell you, the people of Alabama see through this. They see through what Washington is trying to do, and they're upset. Go read the blogs. Go read the internet and the Facebook pages. I think we'll have a huge turnout, and we look forward to the results. And we look forward to turning back something that should be turned back, and that's control out of the federal government over who we want to send to Alabama. I fought in Vietnam. I fought in the courts here in Alabama against liberal judges and federal judges who tried to make us do things. And I'll fight for you in the United States Senate after this election. Thank you. God bless you.
All right, folks, thank you very much for joining us and choosing us as your stream of choice. So the runoff is going to be on Tuesday. We're going to be streaming live the results of that runoff. Also, elections in Germany are this weekend. We're going to be streaming that live too. So stay tuned. Tomorrow, President Trump, according to the last sources, saying that he was going to go over and campaign with loser Strange, how President Trump says big Strange or something like that. So he is set to go campaign according to the last thing that he wrote on Twitter. Let me just confirm one more time. That way I don't give you guys bad information. So let's see here. Okay, so it says, Senator Luther Strange has gone up a lot in the polls since I endorsed him last month. Now a close runoff. He will be great in D.C. He just said that an hour ago. So it looks like he's still going to go and campaign for him. So that should be tomorrow. It was set for Saturday, but they put it a day before, so it's going to be tomorrow. So we are going to stream that live too. So stay here at Golden State Times if you are new. Subscribe to the channel. Give this live stream a thumbs up and make sure that you guys share it on social media. Thank you very much, everyone, and I hope to see you guys here next time. Peace.